Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Plaistow Board of Selectmen meeting from March 29th, 2021. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Beth, may I have a roll call, please?
Select Chair, Mr.
Here.
Talion.
Here?
Select Vice Chair, Mr. Blinn.
Here.
Selectman Mr. DeRoche.
Here.
Selectman Mr. Coy.
Yes.
Selectman Mr. Britton.
Here.
And note for the record, we have Town Manager, Mr. Pearson, and Finance Director, Assistant Town Manager, Mr. Colby, joining us remotely.
Thank you. Would you all please stand? And Selectman Blinn, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The Board of Selectmen, in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, is authorized to meet electronically. The Board of Selectmen is utilizing the Zoom program for electronic meetings. During these meetings, all members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting, and the public has access to listen to the meeting as well. The link to these electronic meetings is provided on the town website. The public may call in for comment during the public comment portion of the agenda at 603-382-5200, extension 290. They may also watch the meeting on cable channel 17 or may live stream the meeting at livestream.com/Plaistow/meetings. If you would like to make a comment or ask a question by email, please email Beth at bhossack, so it's BHOSSACK @Plaistow.com. Questions and comments received by 3 p.m. the day of the Board of Selectmen meeting will be read at that meeting. Okay, our first item of the agenda is to approve the minutes of the March 15th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I make that motion.
Okay, Darrell and Jay seconded. All in favor? First of all, is there any discussion or any changes? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And anybody who wants to abstain, so that will be a 5-0-0. Okay. So I don't see anyone for public comment at this time, so we'll proceed with our agenda. So I got a couple of housecleaning things that I want to take care of. For the benefit of our new selectmen, I want to explain that a number of boards and committees that have appointed members request the Board of Selectmen to confirm those appointments or reappointments. This evening, we have 3 sets of appointments for the Zoning Board, for the Energy Committee, and for the Rockingham Planning Commission. Should the board wish for any of these members to come before the Board of Selectmen, this can be arranged. So I want you to be aware of that. If you don't feel comfortable signing someone's reappointment, we can request that person come to one of our meetings. Okay? So I have reappointments for Peter Below, John Blinn, and Jonathan Gifford for the Zoning Board, a reappointment for Julian Kruska as the Plaistow Commissioner on the Rockingham Planning Commission, and that's for a 4-year term expiring in 2025. We also have a reappointment of Tim Moore and Jeff Adams to the Energy Commission. So unless there is a need to have these individuals come before the board, I will pass the signature folder around for your John Hancock's.
I certainly have no problem, and I want to thank those people for coming forward to give their time.
Good. Excellent. Okay, our first agenda item is our town budget review by Greg Colby. Mr. Colby, the show is yours.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone.
In your packet of information or in your folders that Beth provided, there is some information that I put together for tonight's discussion, but felt that since we are past town meeting and have an approved budget, wanted to provide the five of you with some information so that you're familiar, and also as a recap for those that went through the process. But on the first page, and you can stop me at any point, ask any questions, if you need clarification or anything along those lines. But so the first page for clarification, and when you get monthly expenditure reports, from me, the benchmark for the 2021 general fund operating budget is made up of two warrant articles this year. It's with the passage of Article 2103 for the general fund operating budget of 9.8 million, as well as Article 2107, the 24-hour coverage for the fire department. Whenever I look now at this point for the general fund operating budget as a baseline, whether we compare it to the prior year or when we go forward for next year, the baseline for the 2021 at this point is 9,966,128. When I print off an expenditure report off of the BMSI system, which is also included in this packet, you'll see about the middle of page 13, it will list out 4 or 5 columns of information, but the first column on the left will give you that 9,966,128. So when we talk operating budget, this is the number that we will be referring to. That expenditure report does go out to 14 or 15 pages, which also includes all of the special warrant articles that were also voted and the like, so you can see at any point in time on a monthly basis where we're at. Also, Article 2104 is the sole warrant article this year for the operating budget on the water department. So on the back of that expenditure report, there's also a separate, it's Fund 12. The general fund is Fund 01. The water department is Fund 12. So you can see the differentiation between those two reports there. And at the bottom, almost the bottom of that report, you will see the 431,300. The extra lines on that, of course, are where we track the ongoing potable water projects. The second page that I have for you, and also at the bottom of this, is the areas of concern. As you are aware, that with last year's budget process, there were approximately $165,000 in cuts that was to what the selectmen had approved for a budget that the budget committee had trimmed back. During town meeting deliberative, there was approximately $113,000 that was added back into the budget, and over and above, like in the case of the solid waste collection, over and above what was removed from the budget. So these 4 areas I've listed on the bottom of your sheet are those that are of particular concern, because like with regards to general government buildings, there was a $56,000 cut. That addition that was done in the beginning was primarily the utilities for the public works garage. So given that the voters had voted in the building of a new garage, unfortunately, there's no budget money at this point to pay for the utilities. And where we're a quarter of the way into the year, we are going to have to find the money for this because it's not there. The other areas, highways and streets, $33,000 was removed. For the old home day was removed. And then also there was the planning department was brought back to last year, which means that there is no money. The primary the increase for the planning budget was in the area of salaries. So we are obviously paying the people that are in that office. So that is another area that we are going to have to find the money in the budget. So I bring those up for, further discussion. I want to, obviously be forthcoming with it. Last year's budget, was, it could have been a lot tighter. The reason why it wasn't, as I've stated, publicly before, is we had 31 months of vacancies in the police department that helped cover. And then also with the COVID money that we were able to reimburse back in, it meant that we did not overspend the budget without drastic cuts, changes, or the like. Right now, the police department, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, we're at full staff on the police department right now. So we're not gonna, I'm not looking to see 31 months of vacancies to free up a lot of money in the budget at this point. So as we go through this first quarter and through the second quarter, we are going to be tracking the budget very, very carefully, discretionary versus non-discretionary, and taking a look at absolutely every purchase. If something should happen or, things, don't go as planned, third and fourth quarter, we may need to take drastic measures in order to not overspend the budget. So, yes, sir.
Greg, thank you very much for putting this together. This is great. One of the questions I had was, at deliberative, I put a motion on the floor to increase the utilities for the annex and the highway garage. And that, obviously, it failed. And talking to you, you had given me some numbers. I think the bare bones that we needed, at least to pay the utilities, was around $20,000 to $24,000. What's the other $30,000 here? Is this other, lines within that budget?
I'm thinking that the probably the bare bones, at least for the public works garage, that we had more like $35,000 for that, and then another $10,000. But then the other money would have been, salaries, increase in salaries, but also added costs for preventive maintenance type stuff, generators, septics, buildings, elevators, anticipating increases in all of the preventive maintenance contracts that we have, that we do on a regular basis. Mr. DeRoche, I'd have to go back and look at it, specifically, but, could give you that information. I can send it to you tomorrow.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to point out that when we did that research, it was, the bare bones, at least for the utilities, was around $20,000 to $25,000. It sounds like that's a little higher now, but, and obviously there's other items in here that I guess we're just gonna have to try to deal with as they come up.
Oh, I'd like to say one thing. I know Greg listed it on the sheet. It's not only the Public Works garage, but it's the annex. There's no money for utilities for the annex either.
Right, and that was part of that 25 that I put forward at the deliberative.
And the other thing too, as far as Old Home Day, I know we had discussion. Right now, we're paying for a website, for the Old Home Day, which, even though there's only $1 in that line item at this point, that we've got a monthly recurring, charge to that. So, the discussion is, do we need, and I know the board is going to have further discussions on whether Old Home Day is going to happen or not, how we're going to pay for it if it is. But obviously, a website fee on an ongoing basis needs to be part of that discussion and thought process.
Can't we just roll that into the town webpage? Is there a particular reason why there's a separate webpage?
It was a decision of the Old Home Day Committee
Oh,
to do
okay.
that. So absolutely could be a possible solution to,
How much is that?
I don't have an exact number.
Greg, do you know how much the website costs every month?
Anyway, somewhere between $30 and $50 a month.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're talking
Never
about
mind.
600
Yeah.
bucks.
No, it's pennies.
The website for Old Home Day is very, very brief. There's very, very little, few items on it, and there's a little bit of minutes and stuff.
Yeah.
And that definitely could be rolled up into the town
Yeah, for
website.
that kind of money.
Yep, for that price.
And Beth is kind of our website person to go to, so, you know, she can help out with getting whoever is going to be responsible for that, you know, appropriate logins, access, you know, to maintain the page, so.
A question?
Yes.
And I guess, and this is great, Greg, I'm glad I'm seeing the numbers the way they are, but the 22.5 was essentially eliminated.
Correct.
I don't know, has there been some movement to have Old Home Day? I mean, we'd be only around 85 days away from having Old Home Day, and I haven't heard anything concrete come out. So if it truly isn't going to happen, then we're not short this whole 117, because 22.5 of it wouldn't be used.
Yep. They did have a meeting. I believe John attended it. Could you give us a very summary of?
Yeah, we had a meeting last week. Haley Bush is coming in on the 12th. And we kind of like, if we were gonna have it, we were planning on going into having it in August. So that's tentative now, and we had the money put aside for Old Home Day last year, and it got put in the general budget, and now we can't use it, it's gone. So we're hoping to be able to come up with something, even if it's donations.
So we'll be able to talk to Haley directly and ask her questions.
That's good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can I ask this question both of Greg Kobe and Mark? Is there any specific recommendations in terms of reducing services from the town to be able to cover this budget deficit?
I don't have anything specific. I think that the roadmap that Greg and I are providing the board is let's not wait till September to tell you stuff. We're going to tell you right now where we are, and you can see that we should have spent about 25% of the budget now for the first quarter, and we're inching right up close to that 25%. And the big thing that Greg and I are going to do is in the second quarter and the third quarter is pay attention to every little thing, because when we get to September 30th, now we're coming into the home stretch and we have to make the budget work. So we do not have anything on our radar right now about services. I think that we'll know more as the budget rolls along. You know, it's really a joint discussion with the board and with Greg and I, because we're all in this together. I know it's our job to manage the budget, but we're also letting you know what we're doing every step of the way.
I appreciate that information.
The other question I have, can this be shared with the new budget committee?
Absolutely.
They have a meeting on the, I think it's the 13th? Is it
Yeah,
13th?
absolutely.
Okay. So
I mean,
they're-
on the, also, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I just said their organizational meeting for the purpose is to elect a chair and a vice chair, and then to consider those citizens that are interested in fulfilling the open slots. We don't know whether or not they'll make a decision on those people or whether they will recommend more people apply for those slots, but that's all that's currently that we know until that actual meeting occurs. But I would think that they would be open to have something like this right off the get-go. It would be very, very useful. Go ahead, Greg, you had a comment.
The other thing I wanted to point out is on the highways and streets, Budget Committee had reduced that by 33,669, which they really didn't indicate a specific cut, but I know it was talked about for paving, that they wanted to reduce that to somewhere in the neighborhood of what the town received for the highway block grant. Also want to, you know, bring that up to the board if that's, you know, the route that we want to take, because I know I've been working with Mr. Garlington, and we've talked about scheduling the paving earlier this year, probably sometime after school is out in June instead of waiting till later in the fall. So that obviously will play a big part into, his decision-making on roads and the like. So I just bring that up for, consideration too, since we're still in March, but it will be here before you know it.
Thank you, Greg.
Yep. And then the final thing in your packet is the budget operating summary that I usually will pass out on a monthly basis, but it summarizes each department, gives the town meeting appropriation, the year-to-date expenditures, and then where we should be basically, through, the given time of the report. So as Mark had alluded to earlier, we're, 25% year to date, and down there on the total bottom, on the bottom, you'll see we're at 24.9% expended right now. So, we are within reason, but that doesn't take into account, we will spend 100% of the budget in other areas. So, it's where we haven't spent anything now. So any other questions?
Quick question, if I could.
Yes,
Greg, do we show any place where I could look and just see what the income is every month? Let's see where we are. I mean, it'd be great if we're going to have a greater income than we had last year, but maybe we won't. I just, be nice to be able to track that versus the liabilities.
Yep. I'm currently working on putting together a quarterly report, for the board that's going to be all inclusive. So, quarterly, although seems like it's too far apart, and monthly seems too much, so I may go in every other month, but I'm currently working on putting together a report, that you will see on a monthly basis that will include more than just the expenditures.
That'd be great, thank you.
awesome.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
Our second item is a short presentation from Mr. James Peck on sprucing up the 7 traffic islands on Main and Elm Street created by the Safe Routes to School project in 2018. And this is the second year in a row that Jim is trying to help us keep our streets neat and clean and presentable. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, thank you. Just for the record, I'm Jim Peck from Oak Ridge Road. I'm here as a citizen tonight. And you're absolutely right. It's a good segue here because I'm offering up something that won't cost the town anything. And it actually will save the town some money. So that's a good segue there. Thank you. Thank you for that. Last year was the first year we did this. The Safe Routes to School went in, I think, 2016, 17. And I call them islands, but they're really mulched areas beyond the curbing. And there's 9 of them in front of the school, in front of the Baptist church. There's a couple on the park, and then there's the big corner of Elm Street. So last year they got pretty overgrown a couple years in a row. In fact, some of those weeds were like state champions, I think. They were 5 or 6 feet high, and they were ridiculous. So we finally got around to June, and a lot of people in town were like, scratching their heads and said, why can't we do something about this? And I know Mark did a fantastic job with 125. Those look great. And I had a conversation with him, and we decided what we'd do. We'd go out to some of the businesses. And, often we don't think of them as a source, but they really do want to help. So last year I got 3 businesses to step up. And we got a landscaper, James Delaney, who does a fantastic job. He also does Brookside. So Brookside wanted to sponsor, and they kind of suggested James Delaney. And we went out to a couple. We got some bids and came up with James, and he did a fantastic job last year. So it was Brookside. Fran Berube from Brookside stepped up. Tessa Parzielli. She's just up the street on Elm Street. She was a contributor last year, and then Dave Hansberry from Hills. The 3 of them, I'm happy to report, are going to do it again this year. And I got 2 more. We got Pulsar Alarm, let's see, Alan Davis from Pulsar Alarm, so he's volunteered to do sponsor this year. And the fifth one is Dr. Holloman, Ron Holloman from Plaistow Dental. So that's good because we didn't start till June last year, and now we're starting earlier. Spring is here. I know the cleanup is coming real soon, and so it's time to do it before those weeds start growing. So what I'm doing is just coming back just to run it by you. It saves the town a few $1,000s. Some of the sponsors frankly have said, why can't the town pay for it? And I explained to them this is a very tight budget, and we just heard that's true. So I think it's a great thing to have the businesses do it. Last year, the town bought some signs. They were very unobtrusive, nice-looking signs. They were dark green with white lettering, low, so you had to look a couple times. They didn't really stand out, but they say basically, the adopted by, and you see that in a lot of towns now. So I'm just running it by you again. We can do it the same way we did last year. I know Mark and Greg were, involved in that last year, so I can work with them on this, and I'm just hoping you don't have any objections, and if you have any questions, I'm here, so.
None?
Great job. Thank you. Go ahead, Jay.
Do you need other people to contribute?
At this point, I've kind of negotiated with the landscaper, and we're good, I think. What we may need is, I'll keep that in mind, because we'd like to freshen up the mulch. The mulch gets a little drab after a while, so we may put some more new mulch on it, kind of mix it in, make it look a little bit fresher. If that happens, we may need some help. I did talk to Pastor Goodrow this afternoon, and he said if we got the mulch, the landscaper brings the mulch, they would spread it in front of the church. So something like that, didn't you do something in front of the school? I think you did something last year.
Yeah, my wife and I we would clean up.
So something like that, if we bring the mulch in, just to have somebody spread it, make it look good.
Yeah.
Or if somebody wanted to contribute flowers, some of those bushes out there are flowering. They're actually pretty hardy bushes. They get a lot of salt on them, but we may need some flowers. That would be.
So if anyone wanted to contribute, where would they send it?
Pardon?
If anyone wanted to contribute to this,
They
where
can
would they send it?
contact me, and then we can do it that way. And I'll make sure I run it by Mark, make sure it's legit, so it's done the right way. But if somebody just wants to donate their time, if they're safe, the reason we have a landscaper, because he's insured, he knows how to do it, he's gonna be safe, he's gonna not have his truck in the way, and that kind of thing. We don't want a lot of people hanging out in the road and that kind of thing.
Okay,
So that's it.
Sounds good.
Make it easy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Jim.
Okay, so we'll go ahead. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So our next agenda item is the approval of the T-Mobile contract. You should find that inside of your packet. There's an initial breakdown of charges from Mark Pearson, and then there's a proposed motion. And then right after that, there is, I believe that this is the same thing. Yes, there's a memorandum of agreement that goes along with that. Can you give us a quick summary?
Sure.
Mark?
So the first page I want you to look at, it starts out with current term. I wanted to just give you a snapshot. So there was a previous agreement, the old contract, that started May 31st in 2000. And it had an initial term, 5-year term, and 3 additional 5-year terms with an expiration date of July 23rd, 2020. So the rent as of last year, 2020, was $3,323.80 per month. And that has continued. They're a tenant at will right now, month to month. And we have been negotiating. Susan in my office has taken the lead on this one because she did the last one with AT&T. And so with the negotiations going back and forth, we're at a point, subject to the legal department of T-Mobile, who has this agreement, we've agreed on all of the terms. And the big terms really are to move forward with a 6 separate consecutive additional periods of 5 years. And those are listed on the sheet there. And the big thing is really the rent. So what Susan and I have negotiated is a 19% increase in rent and a 3% per year thereafter, per year thereafter. So the rent would start out on April 1st, 2021 at $3,957 per month. That's an additional $634 a month, or an additional $7,008 annually. And that brings this contract, which is T-Mobile, in line with AT&T that we negotiated a couple of years ago. And it brings two of our three contracts in sync with each other at the same rent and the same escalator per year going forward. The third vendor is not up for renewal yet, and the goal will be that the other vendor will also be increased up, and it would be a greater percentage than 19%, but they'd be increased up. So all three cell carriers will be paying the same amount of rent per month, and they'll have a same annual escalator. So this brings the second cellular contract in line with the previous one we negotiated 2 years ago. So there's a motion there that would authorize me to enter into this agreement, and it would be subject to their legal department agreeing with the terms. We have agreed to all the terms. They have agreed to all the terms, and they, like us, have it reviewed by their legal counsel. So I wanted to bring this before the board tonight to get the approval if you're so inclined to do it. And then as soon as their legal department comes back with us, then it would be effective April 1st, 2021.
Is there any questions that you have? Mark? Yes, Darrell?
Mark, quick question. Is there any language in there that, let's say for any reason, T-Mobile is sold out to someone else, they would assume the agreement as intact, or is that just, we would start renegotiating again?
No, it's an agreement that for the successors and assigns. Okay. So it would transfer to the other company. So they can't just sell out and try to start all over again. However, if you know anything about cellular contracts, the language is such that they can give us a notice to quit and take all their equipment off and leave. And that's just really in the industry, that's what all of the cellular contracts have. So we don't anticipate that will happen because Plaistow is very unique, and it has helped us negotiate these rents because we have the only game in town at 181 feet. Right. So there is not another venue for them to go to. So, but to answer your question, if it is sold to somebody else, this lease is going to stay in effect.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Jay?
Is there any language in the agreement regarding capital improvements to the existing structure? Or was that
no.
considered?
Well, we've considered that, and we have battled that with a couple different negotiations. We did receive an upfront payment from one of the vendors a while ago for the maintenance of the tower. And we did receive, a substantial payment, but I don't have the history on T-Mobile if they were the ones that actually contributed or not. So I can tell you that we have a capital reserve fund for that water tank, for the maintenance of the tank, and that's the fund where those funds were put into. So we have sufficient reserves to maintain that tower if we need to. And these companies come in to maintain the tower, to maintain their equipment on the tower periodically, and I require them to do an assessment of the tower before they put the equipment on and provide the town with drone and pictures and reports from structural engineers, because it's a two-way street. We want to know that our tower is structurally safe, and they want to know that the tower is structurally safe to put their equipment on, and the tower is structurally safe.
One last follow-up question. How often, when there's no new vendors putting equipment on there, how often do we, as a town, inspect it? Is it a yearly or bi-yearly?
No, we don't inspect it at all. I have the cell towers inspected, as I just previously stated, when they come in to retrofit their current equipment. So I do it every time they come in. They have to ask permission, and they have to provide us with a structural report
So
at
how
no
often?
cost to the town.
How often is that? Is that something they change out every couple of years, or?
It's been rolling since I've been here. It's been almost, I would say it's been three times in 4 years.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I'd entertain someone reading the motion.
I'll read it.
Oh, awesome. Oh,
Okay. So I'm just stating my name, is that it?
yeah, you can just say I make a motion.
I make a motion to authorize the town manager, Mark A. Pearson, to sign a memorandum of agreement with T-Mobile USA LLC for the leased premises located at 144F Main Street, Plaistow, New Hampshire, also known as the Old Water Tank, for the purposes of entering into an agreement, entering into a new lease agreement for the purposes of installing, operating, manufacturing a communications facility and other improvements for cellular communications. The new contract agreement is for 6 separate consecutive individual periods of 5 years, and the rent will be increased to $3,957 per month commencing April 1st, 2021, and will increase 3% each year thereafter.
Do I have a second? Bill seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Abstained? 5-0-0. Thank you. Great.
Could I just say one thing, that next time each one of you happens to talk to Susan in the office, I just wanted to let you know that I've delegated this and some other projects to her, and she has been the point person with this, so she's done a good job. So I just wanted to let you know that, so that next time you see her, you can mention it to her.
Very good.
Mark. Okay, our next agenda item is the Salt Shed Solar Panel Phase 2. We had last year a warrant article that would have put up half of the necessary panels on the roof, and this year we had a warrant article passed that would finish that process. So we'd have a total of, I believe this is 68 panels and 2 inverters, and that will basically will complete the whole roof. So Mark, do you want to discuss where we are with the contracts?
Yes, so in your package, you'll have a sheet there that will say rooftop solar proposals for Plaistow Salt Shed Phase 2. On the reverse side of that was the Phase 1. That's already been approved. So we're talking about Phase 2, and that's to add 68 panels and 2 inverters for a total cost, fully installed, of $53,112. What is possible is that there may be a New Hampshire PUC rebate for $3,600, which would bring that net investment down to $49,512. But I'm going to ask you to, the motion does say recognize the $53,112, and if the rebate happens, then it recognizes the $49,512. So this is the second part of the second phase of the installing the panels. And we have the agreement for the first phase that's already been negotiated and waiting again for their legal department to approve it. And the Phase 2 contract will be the same thing. There will be 2 separate contracts, but the language contained in both of them will be identical except for the amounts and the number of panels.
Any questions? Yes, Bill.
Does that complete the Phase 1, Phase 2, that completes everything out there, right?
I can't hear with the microphone.
for the phase 1 and phase 2, will that complete everything out there on the shed? That'll take up all the space?
Yes, that's phase 1 and phase 2 was the original plan for the salt shed, so that would complete the intent of the project, yes.
And I have one question. if I
Yes, Daryl, go ahead.
Mark, help me out with this one, I'm sort of lost on it. When I look at the project savings, the revenue, at 25-year net savings is $56,491, which is great. The 40-year net savings, which is, not even double, but that 146, is that inclusive of the 25, the 56,000? Or is that just another 146 on top of that?
Total 40 years.
The total?
No, that's the total 40 years would include the 25-year.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Are you good, Daryl?
I am, thank you.
Okay, cool.
I'll make a motion to direct Mark
Can I ask
Pearson.
one question?
Oh,
first?
go ahead.
Believe it or not, I have a question. Mark, someone asked me this question, and I'm not sure if this has to do with residential solar panels, but I wanted to make sure that it at least gets communicated and that maybe we could have Dee check with the company. But I got the impression that if you want to put solar panels on your roof, you have to get permission from the power company to be able to have the net metering. Has that been checked, or if it hasn't, can we have that followed up to make sure that we haven't missed a step?
Well, I'm going to take I'm going to tell you what I do know. I know that the net metering for residential is that if you wanted to sell back your excess energy, then they only allow a certain amount of people to do it, and they want to be able to rely on that extra energy in their calculations. In this case here, on the town side, my understanding is that whatever we save is going to be applied towards reducing our bills on our other bills in town. So it's not so much that we're going to be selling back the electricity to the grid. That's my understanding, but I stand to be corrected. I really have not spent a lot of time on the technical details with the solar project. Dee has been the go-to person. I can ask her to clarify that and then get back to you to answer your question, though.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay. Make a motion to direct Mark A. Pearson, Town Manager, to enter an agreement with Revision Energy in the amount of $53,112 or $49,512 if the New Hampshire PUC rebate occurs to install 68 panels and 2 inverters for the salt shed roof.
Second,
Second?
Darrell seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstain? Passes 5-0-0. Thank you. We're saving the town money, hopefully. Okay. So the next topic we have is a consideration of naming the town hall annex. And I'd like our, go
Excuse me,
ahead.
Mr. Chairman, you
Yes.
skipped an agenda item.
Did I ask an item? Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, the Sanborn Head construction?
Sanborn Head.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Okay. Thank you. Just edge that one up. Okay, so we will discuss the Sanborn Head contract approval. Mark has provided a sample motion for that, and this has to do with the providing engineering services to make sure that the construction of the landfill cap occurs correctly. And I also want to note that this contract is a reduction from what the initial was proposed. So Mark has actually saved us some money on this contract. Would you like to add anything to that, Mark?
Last meeting, you heard from Kelly Anderson, and perhaps even Eric Steinhauser about that their proposed contract was $99,300. I said that we needed to reduce that down to $85,000. What you have before you tonight is an agreement to not to exceed $85,000 for the oversight, the engineering and oversight portion of the project. So I worked with them for the last 2 weeks to get this done, and you know, I'm bringing it to you for approval. This accomplishes our goal of working with the warrant article to get this work done. And the engineering services are required by New Hampshire DES. It has to be monitored and it has to be reported by the engineering company to DES because of the permitting.
Any questions for Mark? Yes, Darrell?
Mark, what's the schedule on this as far as start date and what's the anticipated finish date?
So I have the minutes in front of me here, so just give me a second here.
I mean, roughly, are we talking about next month starting?
I just want to get it right. Yeah, so the landfill, so that question was asked at the last meeting, and I thought that they gave a start date. Beth, do you remember what the start date was? I think that they said that T. Ford was going to start with April 15th, and I believe that was only so many days, but they were anticipating to have it done in approximately August 12th. Because actually, you asked that question, Selectman Britton, last meeting. You asked for the anticipated time to complete the job, and I replied approximately April 12th.
I apologize, Mark, I'm an old man. I don't remember everything.
Well, I thought maybe you're trying to trip me up and it was a trick question, so I
No.
don't want to guess.
Any other questions or discussion? Yes, Jay?
So by reducing the amount in that contract, does that free up funds to work on those lower priority items that were as part of that project?
It does, but one of the unknowns is the contingency. So we're going to work real hard to make sure that the contingency doesn't get out of control. Because at this point, with the contract and this contract, we're up to 500. So that only leaves 75,000. So the contingency could wipe out that 75. We don't want that to happen. We want the contingency to come in less than the 20% that they talked about, so that we can do those other projects. So, you know, we're just gonna try to figure this out and try to get as much done as we can. Because the 575, as I told you, was a target amount. We wanted to keep it low. We didn't want to go high. So that's our intent, is this will help us with some headroom on the funds.
Yes, go ahead, Jay.
And I'm not familiar with contingencies, so if maybe you could explain it. So how does a company reduce the percentage of the contingency?
Well, they really don't. It's anything that happens that out there at the site that is unanticipated, then they'll come back for a change work order to address the issue. You know, I asked that question about what type of contingencies can we anticipate with this project, and the answer was that there's a lot of these monitoring standpipes and things out there at the landfill, and they said that's probably where we could run into some contingency, because they just don't know till they start doing the construction with those monitoring pieces of pipe on what the costs are going to be.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion. Someone would like to read that?
Yeah, I can read it.
Okay.
Make a motion to direct Mark A. Pearson, Town Manager, to enter into contract not to exceed $85,000 with Sanborn Head and Associates to provide construction phase engineering services associated with the landfill final cap / cover system repair project at the Plaistow Unlined Municipal Landfill located at 37 Old County Road.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Jay,
Give it to Darrell.
just cut it off. If there's no other further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Abstain? That passes 5-0-0. Thank you, Mark. Okay, so that's Sanborn Head. Okay, there's one thing I'm going to read just to catch up. We have a public notice of mosquito control. The mosquito control program begins the week of April 5th, 2021, in the town of Plaistow. Crews from Dragon Mosquito Control Incorporated will be checking swamps, marshes, woodland, pools, ditches, storm drains, and other shallow, stagnant water for mosquito larvae. If Eastern equine encephalitis, Jamestown Canyon virus, or West Nile virus becomes a public health threat, limited spot spraying may be conducted at Pollard Elementary School, Vic Gary Center, the Vic Gary Senior Center, Smithfield Park, and Timberlane Junior High and Senior High School. It is, if it, wait a minute, it isn't, okay, it isn't possible to predict if emergency spraying will be necessary. The decision to spray is made in consultation with town officials and is based on mosquito surveillance data, disease test results, and weather conditions. Residents who do not want their wetlands treated may use the No Spray registry online at www.dragonmosquito, and I'll spell that, dragonmosquito.com/no-spray-registry. Or they may write the Dragon Mosquito Incorporated Company at P.O. Box 46, Stratham, Stratham, New Hampshire 03885. Okay? This is also, will be posted on the town website.
I just have a quick question on
Sure,
that, if I could.
absolutely.
Spraying of the junior high school and the high school, that's the district. Now, do they, the rest of the towns help fund that, or are we funding it on our own, or how does that work?
My guess is that we're funding it on our own, but I'll ask Mark. Mark, do you know whether or not there's additional funding from other towns to take care of the high school?
I do not, no.
I'm pretty sure it's a separate line item and it's part of our budget.
Okay,
It isn't a huge amount of money.
it isn't, okay.
No. Okay. Okay. So we've finished that item. The next one is on naming the town hall annex, and I would like our board to consider naming our town hall annex building.
Be-
af-
Before you do that, can I
yes.
say something? Because I wouldn't want to put a name out there. It would be my full intention to hope that at some point in time, after this is all over, maybe we won't need the town annex. I mean, I like what's there, I went over there and saw it.
Yep.
But to have that additional expense, I'm not convinced yet that we need that.
Okay. That really should have been for discussion because there's no motion's been made yet, but I do
I'm sorry.
understand what you're
I'm
saying.
sorry. I thought
Yep.
you were going to start naming names, and I didn't.
No,
want to
no,
do
no,
that.
no.
Okay.
I want to basically just read out again what I was requesting the town, the board to
Okay, I'm sorry.
consider, okay? So I'd like the board to so consider naming our town annex building after a Plaistow gentleman who has served both our town for decades and decades. I would like to propose that the Board of Selectmen name the town annex the Norman L. Major Annex. So I would like to have a second, and then we can discuss it. Can someone second that, please, for me?
Second the motion?
Okay, John seconds the motion, and so now we can have discussion.
I mean, I've told you what I feel.
Okay.
You know, I think that we still need a little bit more looking into. When we built, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but initially, when we were doing the police department, for instance, there was going to be an office over there for the plumbing inspector, the electrical inspector, and the building inspector. I understand COVID came along, that wasn't practical. So there seems to be room there. We certainly, at some point in time, we may.
I'm sorry, just so I understand what you're saying. Are you saying, you're making the statement that there is room over there?
Well, what I'm saying is that's what was planned.
Okay.
When the people were sold that building,
Okay.
those folks were going to be in that building.
That was the plan back then?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay? I don't know as if we, at some point again, when COVID's come and gone, that we can't be on the top floor where we were for many, many years. So, like I said, I was over there this week. I like what I saw. But can we afford to take on another piece of property on the tax rolls, heat it, cool it, take care of it for that particular venue? I'm not convinced of that yet.
Okay. Mark, could I ask you to offer your thoughts in terms of the utilization of the building and how it impacts our town to deliver services?
Yes. So as you know, when the building department was located on the third floor prior to COVID, the traffic would come in, the foot traffic, and the construction people would park outside, and there was trouble with finding parking places, and they would have to come in. They came in with work boots, you know, they had mud on it. They would get in the elevator, they'd go to the third floor. So there was a lot of foot traffic in the building and going up to the third floor, and that space was shared between the planning department and the building department. And there actually was no desk space for the electrical inspector and the plumbing inspector. Having said that, when the COVID came along and actually our assistant town manager and finance director, Greg Colby, and human resources came up with this plan to utilize that building because it just became available, the courthouse. What it now allows is all of that contractor and foot traffic to go to the annex and to simply be able to go in on the ground floor, to be able to park and get their permits. And it frees up the space both outside and inside at the town hall. And we repurposed the space on the third floor for our records management, and we kept one of the planning offices up there. And most of the files that were on the third floor are under the records management documentation purview right now to digitize as many town documents as we can. So the recreation department that was located on the second floor with a single office right to the rear of where you are, where Dee's office is now, was also a lot of foot traffic coming in with parents and kids and activities. And they would use your room right there, the Selectmen's meeting room, to do the Easter eggs and so forth. And that has been moved over there to what used to be the courthouse. So the building inspector is in the side where the clerk was, which was already outfitted with the window and security. And then the recreation is in what used to be the courtroom. And there's a conference room in the front lobby there that can be used by both the inspectors or the recreation and the recreation commission and even the seniors, because a lot of the senior activities are run through the recreation department. So functionally, COVID was the reason why we did that, but also functionally moving into the future, it has provided greater services to the community for accessibility, both from the contractor's perspective, people getting permits, and also the recreation. And it has freed up space in town hall for us to become more efficient and functional. And one of the byproducts, quite frankly, was creating a selectmen's room, you know, with some of this moving around and rededicating spaces so that the selectmen could actually have an office in the building, which you do. Along with, we also moved the general government building supervisor from the basement you may not have known, but he had a desk down in the basement, just inside of the big area down there. So we moved him up to what was once the old selectmen's room by the stairway, and the selectmen, of course, moved over to the office to your rear on Town Green side, and then Dee moved over to the other one. So it's been a good use of space by moving people around and giving them the ability to work, because people become more productive when they have the right space and the right tools to do their job. And that works out for the building department, for the recreation department, for our planning department, for our document management, and for our government, buildings supervisor, and the Board of Selectmen. So it has solved some of our space problems. And if you know anything about other towns, as they grow, space becomes an issue. And this certainly would prevent the notion of trying to add on to Town Hall, because this Town Hall annex serves as that add-on without building a building, and at a relatively low cost for the cost of the heating and the cooling. And with our solar panels coming online and reducing down, in theory, the bill over at the Public Works garage, the offset would be is that electricity could be used in the budget in the future to help supply some of these costs that we're talking about now for the Town Hall annex.
I've got a comment if I could.
Okay?
I don't disagree with anything you've just said, Mark. The only thing is, and again, somebody will have to look back, is the safety complex was going to be where all of those folks, not all of those folks, all the building department was going to move into. And that's the way we voted as a town to have that happen. And it made sense, because you go in for an inspection, whether the fire department was right there, you could get them to come out for the inspection. The offices were going to be made for them. Now, if all of a sudden those offices are used for something else, I don't know, because I haven't been in there. But I can assure you that we were sold on the safety complex, having the extra office, more than one offices for the building department.
Any comment, Mark?
Yes, my comment is, I wasn't here for those discussions, and I have not researched or read those minutes, so I really don't have a comment.
Okay. Bill, could you give us, from your perspective in working with Recreation, what you see in terms of their use of that building?
Obviously, for recreation, it would be quite a change, right? Because you look in the office that was right over there, that's where recreation was run out of. And I think where it would impact the most when it comes to like the senior type programs. There's really no facility here to do anything like that. Over there they could easily come in the morning, there's enough space there where, they could just get together, play cards, have coffee without disrupting anything inside Town Hall. So you look at things like that, activities that can be done there. I know whenever they used to have luncheons, they used to have to be done right up here, and the Town Hall staff would be involved in it. You'd be able to do some things like that over there as opposed to here. And for the seniors, one big thing is it's all on one floor. It's would be a lot easier to get in and out of. Just think of parking around Town Hall, having to come into the building, and you'd have to take an elevator upstairs, and then when they'd have to go to the bathroom, they'd have to go back downstairs. Whereas over there, everything's right there on one floor. So that's a big instance where it would make a big difference, I think.
Anybody else would like to? Yes, Jay.
Regarding the safety complex and those offices that were planned for the building department, I know you weren't here, Mark, but is it possible you could research and try to find out what exactly the plans were and what rooms were specifically supposed to be used for that, and are they available? And I'd just like to know if that information is available.
Go ahead, Mark.
So I guess I would be looking for some minutes surrounding that whole concept of building the public safety complex. So those are going to be minutes, probably with a warrant article, maybe with a bond vote and so forth. So I'm sure that I'll task a staff member to research those minutes. And I know those building committee minutes and so forth. So we'll try to find out where that is and look for the documentation. And then what we can do is we'll point you in the direction of the documentation and send it to you electronically. But I'm sure if, and I'm not doubting anything Selectman Britton said, again, he was here. Whatever he remembers is probably true. So we'll try to find that.
I have to imagine there's a plan that has that spelled out, so I'm sure there's something on the webpage as far as minutes and documentation.
It was shown right on the plans, too, so if we just have a set of plans, it may show up on that.
So can I just want to add one thing, that we have a training room and an emergency management that is taking up space in the new complex, in the new safety complex. So whether, I don't know if that was the space
was
that you're
accounted
talking
for,
about, but
yeah.
those two things are being utilized for training, especially for our brand-new fire chief is a very much focused on training. So really has picked up quite a bit for the fire department. And then in addition to that, especially through our COVID-19 crisis, the emergency management was outfitted into that space and can be utilized at a moment's notice when we have an emergency within town. So again, I don't know of what other space that you were referring to. That building, that room is a fairly large room.
It was
I don't know
accounted
of
for.
any other additional space that you would put that you could put offices in and have people coming in and coming out.
Let's
Yeah.
wait and see what they find.
Yeah.
Okay? I think that's the easiest thing to do.
Mark, do you have any indication, or do you have any plans or whatever? Right now, are your plans to continue to utilize the town annex for these two departments?
Yes. You know, we're a year into this COVID, a little bit more than a year, and the recent statistics, what is it, about 15% of the population has had access to shots, and we know that it's going to pretty much use up the rest of this year. And then we have the variant that is also affecting some of this, and the recent numbers that I focus on is that there's a 7% infection rate going on now, where we used to only have an infection rate of about 3%. And they don't even have an answer for what that is. So, you know, again, it's the crystal ball. I don't know where we're going to be, you know, in a couple months. I don't know where we're going to be in 6 months. So I'm not prepared to make any predictions. And obviously, this is a board decision on whether to continue to use the town hall annex or not to use it. From the services perspective, even if the inspection department were to end up at the fire department, there is no remedy for the recreation. So then the question becomes, where does recreation go? And as Selectman Coy stated, that the functionality, and he brought up all those points about the elderly and the bathrooms and the stairs and the parking and so forth. So, you know, where do the seniors and where do the recreation go back to? That's the end. That's the real question. If it was an easy fit to just move the inspectors, which that inspection department now is comprised with 4 people. So in theory, it could be 4 different offices up at the fire department.
John, you haven't provided any feedback on this. Would you like to?
No, I went up there and I think it's a good fit for the town, and we are expanding, and my particular thought is what I saw, because being on the Elder Affairs Committee and dealing with putting on the luncheons, and it's like night and day up there compared to here. Granted, it's costing us more money, but everything we do is costing money because we are expanding, so we need that, and I just think it's a great fit for the town. Even if we found the offices up there, like Mark said, I have to agree that we've already outgrown we had a couple of years ago. So that's my opinion on what I saw, and, you know, we can't throw it away now.
Okay.
It would be kind of crazy.
So as everyone has had their opportunity to provide some feedback, I'm going to call this for a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay?
All abstained. So that passes 4-1-0. I have a proclamation set up, and I'll pass it around for your signature. And our plans would be to provide a very low-cost sign for the building. We are hoping to be able to touch up the paint on the front entrance of the annex, and then have a very small ceremony at the end of April or the beginning of May when the weather is nice and warm, and we'll ask the major family to show up. So I'll just read very quickly the proclamation that I have prepared, and I'll pass this around as I'm doing that. So this is what I have. This official citation is presented to Norman L. Major, whereas Norm Major has served the town of Plaistow as a member of the zoning board, a financial agent, a town moderator, a selectman, and chair of the select board, and whereas Norm Major has served as a state representative for Plaistow over 25 years, and whereas he has provided the town of Plaistow with many hours of service, research, dedication, and leadership for the betterment of the town, and whereas he has provided the youth of Plaistow with many hours of volunteer time, leadership, and experience in support of scouting, and therefore, by the authority vested in us as members of the Board of Selectmen, we do proclaim that as of Monday, March 29th, 2021, the Plaistow Town Annex will be named the Norman L. Major Annex in appreciation for his service to our town. And we encourage all citizens to recognize and appreciate the many enduring contributions of Norman Major to both our town and community. And the actual proclamation is being passed around, and hopefully you all can put your signature on it. Okay? Okay. So the next topic, and you should have this in your handout, it's the Selectmen's Service Recognition Awards, and I'll just give you a little bit of background on this. In the past, there has been what I could describe as a tradition with not necessarily a consistent tradition to provide some type of gift for members of the Board of Selectmen who have retired from service. And from communicating, thank you. Thank you. And from communicating with Lori Sadowich, and discussing with her what has been done in the past, we basically kind of looked at coming up with a proposed policy that we could follow and that future boards could follow. And if a future board wanted to make modifications to this, they would be able to do that. And so what you see in here are 3 levels of service term: a 3-year term, a 6-year term, or a long-term service, which would be 9 years or more. And then we try to give some alternate reasonably priced gifts to the selectmen who will be leaving service, and make it consistent so that if you serve 3 years or you serve 6 years, you'd be given the same type of level of recognition as any other person serving that same time period. So I passed this by Mark Pearson and Lori Sadowitz and John Blinn. I got nothing but positive feedback from them. We don't have to hurry into this. You guys have all had now a chance to possibly take a look at it. I'm pleased we just open this up for discussion, and any questions you have or any recommendations for changes would be very much appreciated.
You and I talked about it. I thought it was a great idea.
Okay? John, any comments?
I think it's a great idea. I think we ought to move on with it.
Okay? Good?
I'm good.
Bill? Okay? All right. So I'll pass the policy out. I think, since we have it in the signature folder, didn't we? Yes.
Do we need to make a motion to accept the policy, or is it done by consensus?
You could do it by consensus, but it'd be better. to
Either
do a
or?
motion. Yes, please do a motion, yes.
I make a motion to accept the Selectmen Service Recognition Award policy.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll
Second.
second it.
Okay. I think Bill got it before you did.
That's fine.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Abstain. So that passes 5-0-0. And I'll pass this around for signature. And we'll try to follow that. So just as a little update to you, who had this last one? I started here with.
Okay.
I had a conversation with Julian Kriska today, and I talked with him about the new things that he's going to be doing inside of the town. He has got elected for the school budget committee. He has been appointed as the Rockingham Planning Commission Commissioner. And can I borrow that pen there? Yeah, sorry. Thank you. And let me just do this. Give that to John. There you go. He is also applying to be considered for one of the open positions, one of the open slots in the town budget committee. They're going to have their organization meeting on the 13th, so hopefully that will come through. I think he'll have a lot of experience with that. So we have audited Julian's recognition, and as soon as we get a date from the company that we audited it from to when we would expect it, we will schedule him on the agenda and we'll present that to him in recognition for his 6 years as selectman. We also have provided a letter to previous selectman Steve Ranlett and communicated the vote that we made and the agreement that we made, and providing him the means of being able to pick up his chair at the town hall. So that kind of catches us up on that. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, so on the agenda, let's see where we are here. I just pulled it out here. What did I do with it? Here we go. Okay. So unless there's any other items, we do have two specific non-public minutes. And I'm hoping that, Dean is back. So what we will probably do is we will conclude the meeting, or maybe we can just talk about what we have done as selectmen. And then hopefully when he shows up at 8 o'clock, we will be able to do the non-public session. So why don't we just kind of go around the corner? And I know you guys have just got assigned to some of these commissions, so if you haven't had the opportunity to meet with them, that's fine. We'll just start with Bill and we'll kind of go around the room.
I did attend the Zoom meeting for the Old Home Day that was on Sunday. We'll see what happens there. Hopefully, they can somehow pull something off. We'll know more, obviously. She'll be in here our next meeting, right? Yesterday, I also attended baseball evaluations over there, so they're getting ready to get that season rolling. It's hard to believe baseball season's only a few weeks away. It's crazy. One other thing, on April 24th will be Plaistow Pride Day. What they'll do that morning on that Saturday, they'll meet in the gazebo at 8:30 to hand out the colored trash bags. And then the highway department goes around the following week and they pick everything up. The only request is if you can just give a call into the recreation department and to Jen, just let them know you'll be participating, so everything will be prepared and ready to go. And in May, on May 15th, that will be the date of the townwide yard sale. And that'll also be through recreation.
Awesome, thank you, Bill. Okay,
I just wanted to say we have a track meeting the second Thursday in April, but we have, because of the busy work, we may have a Thursday meeting, April, I don't know, I think it's 2nd, so this coming Thursday. That will get posted in due time if we're having that meeting. So I don't know if that's happening yet, but most likely it will be. I just wanted to say I was able to register today for my vaccine. It was opened up to my age group this morning, and some people were able to register and get their shot today. Mine isn't until the end, April 23rd, but it was very easy, and I just wanted to share that with the general public, that it's very, very easy online to do that. If you do have questions, you can call 211, and they will help you get through the process and get you signed up. So just wanted to share that, so thank you.
John?
Yeah, also, I attended the Old Home Day meeting, and like Bill, we settled a few things that we hadn't talked about. One of them was a tentative date, talked about the fireworks, and Haley Bush will be in here on the 12th to talk more about it and hopefully get some more things straightened out. I also attended the Conservation Committee meeting, and we reviewed a few of the town properties for sale and made our recommendations on them. I see there's copies in your packet, and that's about it.
Great. Daryl?
The only question, I just have some questions, because I haven't been to any yet. The cable, that's the first Wednesday. Is that scheduled up here always? Or where's that
It
held?
normally is done here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elder Affairs is the last Wednesday. Is that here, or is that at the,
Is it at the Victory Center?
We haven't had an Elder Affairs in a while
Probably because of COVID.
because of COVID.
okay. Okay, and then the last one is the track. We were just talking about that. That'd be next week, next Thursday?
Yes, we may have another meeting this coming Thursday. I'll have Dee add you to the invite so that you're invited to all the meetings.
Yeah,
So,
please.
Okay?
And where's that, held here?
It's virtual, so it's all on the Zoom meeting.
Oh, okay, so they'll just have a Zoom invite?
Yep,
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
and that agenda will get posted and everything, but I'll have Dee add you to it.
All right, perfect.
Thank you. Thank you,
Darrell, Dean might have the answer to your first question about the cable meetings, where they're held.
Yes.
Where is the cable meeting held? Yeah,
Typically, we've held the meetings in the studio, but the committee has not met in quite a while.
okay. All right. I'm sure you'll let us know if you are.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So I'll just very briefly tell you that I've been working with the existing members and the elected members of the Budget Committee, and we now have a specific date for their organizational meeting, and they will be electing both a chair and a vice chair. And of the 3 open positions that were vacated by Darrell, Maxanne, and Dennis, there are 3 candidates already looking to be considered for those 3 positions. So again, as I mentioned before, I'm not sure when they'll actually vote on them. They'll probably will talk with them at the first meeting, and then second meeting, they'll vote on them to bring them in. Also, I have attended the planning board meeting, and the planning board has elected a new chair rather, and that is Tom Alberti. And the vice chair right now is Tim Moore. And that's about it, other than working on agendas. There is another item that I don't see it on the agenda, but I'm wondering whether we can handle this very quickly. Mark, we got our recommendations back from both the Conservation Committee and from the Planning Board for 13 Rose Avenue and for 17 Canterbury Forest. Both committees recommended the sale of 13 Rose Avenue, and both committees did not recommend the sale of 17 Canterbury Forest. So
That's correct.
do you need a vote on that and to move forward with that, or what?
Well, traditionally, regardless of what the recommendations are, it's the board's purview to schedule the second public hearing and to then discuss the properties and make your final decision then on whether you want to sell those properties or not. So the next step in the process, because we've already had one public hearing, is to schedule a second public hearing. And Beth would just schedule it with the proper notification. And should advertise it, and you'd have a meeting, a public hearing, and then the board would then decide if they're gonna offer one or both or neither of the properties for sale.
Okay, that's reasonable.
So do you want that public hearing on the next meeting?
Let's just hold off until we look at the agenda. If we can do it the next meeting, yes. If we have filled up that meeting, then we may have to push it to the second April meeting.
Okay, I just need time to get it into the newspaper.
Okay. I can chat with you at the end of the meeting, and we can kind of look at what we have on the schedule so far. So one of the last things, if you look at the action items that we have, it is up to the board to decide whether or not we want to continue on with these action items. Some of them were being driven by Julian Kruska, and I'm not sure whether or not there's additional work that can be done or expected to be done. The ones that are highlighted, I would like to consider whether or not we could retire those. I would like to get your feedback and your input on those items. Yes?
What exactly is the multiple telephone pole?
Yeah, that was my
If the
question.
telephone companies are putting in a second pole instead of replacing the old one, and they just wire them together. So the issue is, when we do appraising, we appraise both of those telephone poles, and they are supposed to take the pole that is no longer good and remove it from the town. And if you walk down the main drag here in front of the town hall, you'll see that a lot of the telephones are all double sites. But basically, the conclusion was, after a number of contacts and no response from the telephone company, we basically started appraising both buildings, both poles. And so I haven't heard any commitment to remove them, and so while they're not being removed, they're not being taxed. So is there anything, any other actions that we think we can do with that, or we would like to do that, or can we retire that item?
I mean, it's been out there almost 4 years at this point.
Yeah. And if they're getting on the tax roll, then if they don't want to pay for it, then they'll have to come out and take it out.
Yeah.
So, no, we can take that one off.
Okay, everybody agree with that? Okay, good. And the status of the closing of Walton Road permanently, Julian was supposed to contact the fire chief, and this has been, again, has been on there since February of 2020. I don't know whether or not the fire chief has even been contacted. I'm not sure I totally understand what is the purpose of this. Mark, do you have any idea about the closing of Walton Road? What was Julian trying to accomplish there?
Oh, I can't speak for what he was trying to accomplish. All I know is the history was that there was a temporary closing of it, and then it came up during my tenure about reaffirming the temporary closure again. So it's temporarily closed so that people can't pull off 125 into that neighborhood. I've received no complaints about it. I think that the complaints, I'm gonna guess the complaints were coming from the neighborhood because they were in support of keeping it closed. And the nuance of it remaining closed, at least temporarily into the near future, is that should the potable water be connected up to the system up there for the Twin Ridge, that's the place where the connection would be made. So there'd be some tearing up and some construction there. So I think that we should just leave well enough alone right now and maybe in the future visit it when it becomes an issue. But I'm not sure who would actually bring it up as an issue at this point.
Okay. Is that the consensus for the board?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then we have looking into live streaming all meetings, no camera operator will be needed. Are we there?
No,
We're not there. But from what I understand, you are training anybody who wants to be trained to be able to, or are you? Let me ask you that way.
or,
If a group wants to do a meeting, will you be training them, or do you have to run the meeting?
it would depend on the type of meeting, like if they want to just do it on Zoom, if they just wanted to have a Zoom, like if they were in like a conference room and they
Yep.
wanted to go on Zoom, that's something that's doable, but, I mean, if we were going to do like a cable broadcast meeting, there is a bit more that goes into it. And
Okay.
So, but yeah, I've worked with a couple of the committees, being TRAC and Old Home Day, if that's what they're referring to.
Yep.
And they were fully remote, and I have assisted them basically launching the meeting and then in some cases letting them take over. And if there's somebody who is capable and willing and wants to be delegated to handle that, then I would gladly get them started with that.
Okay,
I might be looking at down the road, we have switched to Zoom. We might want to get some additional licenses that could be, for example, for different departments, if they wanted to regularly meet on a more frequent basis. But for right now, many of those meetings are conducted on our secondary account.
okay.
And I don't think it's, basically, it's not feasible if you're having a broadcast meeting. You need a cable operator, so, right? You need someone up there
Yeah,
pressing buttons.
if we want to do like an event and have it cable broadcasted and live streamed, there would probably need to be somebody involved, unless there's, I mean, is there any specific committees that are out there that are looking for assistance that?
No, but what I'm saying is any meeting that's broadcast on cable, you need someone sitting in the room
Correct.
upstairs to press
Yes.
buttons and do that. So that's, you
Yes.
can't automate that and,
Yeah, and that would be
not
for,
feasible.
for example, planning, zoning, budget,
yeah.
planning, zoning, budget, selectmen, these types of meetings, we typically need somebody here to facilitate the cable hookup.
So we probably
Kind of
take that
decides
one
that
out.
one.
So is that reasonable that we take this one away?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. So the only two that we have is, we had one thing that was being worked on for recognizing the 3 selectmen that purchased the land that our water tank, our water tower is now on. That one's still kind of in progress. We haven't really done anything yet. We were waiting for the water tower, the water tank to be completed and to be landscaped, and so we can hold off on that one. The first one is visible numbers in the houses and business. I don't know where this came from, if there's a specific planning
this
board
Came from
requirement.
Julian.
Excuse me?
I think Julian started this one as well,
Okay,
and then it went to ended up going to the chief. I think
Okay.
he was doing something with it. so.
okay. So if you want, on that one, I can contact the chief on behalf of the board and just ask him what is the status of that.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yep, that works.
Okay, cool. All right,
Um,
yes.
I know last year around this time, we did a review of goals with the town manager. Is that something we're gonna do again this year, where everyone comes up with some goals for the upcoming year, or?
Can I get back with you on that?
Sure,
I'll have some discussion, and then I'll come back to the board and talk to you on the 12th.
sure.
And if I get any information ahead of that, I'll send an email out what I know. But I will check on that. Okay. Mark, are we ready for our non-public with our town council?
My understanding is they are standing by. Let me check the time out here. Yeah, it's in close proximity. They're standing by, probably waiting to go into non-public right now.
Okay.
And they've been provided with the access.
Okay. So if there's no other items to come before the board, we will close the board meeting the public meeting at 8:06. And I'll entertain a motion to enter a non-public for the purpose of consideration of legal advice, which is L. So can somebody make a motion? Yes?
Do we close the meeting and then go into non-public, or do we go into non-public and then when we're done, close everything
We
afterwards?
close the meeting, we close this meeting, and then we go into non-public, and if we have to come back, we come back into public, and then go back into non-public. But basically, we're coming back into public just to seal the minutes.
All right,
If I do anything
we go in
wrong-
and out and in
If I
and
do
out
anything
and-
wrong,
It's like playing tennis.
Beth's
Yeah.
gonna correct me. So I'm happy,
make
because I
sure.
know Beth's here. If I do anything wrong, she'll let me know. No. Okay.
You're done.
Okay. So I would entertain that motion, if somebody would like to make that.
Make a motion to enter a non-public session under RSA 91A3 2A, or what,
That's L.
2L, consideration of legal advice.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in, do we have to do a roll call? Yes. Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
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 Okay, so you want to set that up?